Secretary General.
We just finished a series of bilateral meetings. They were all constructive and good, and I think it underlines the importance of the Munich Security Conference as a platform for political dialogue, and that is always important, but it is in particular of importance in times like this, with more turmoil and more unpredictability than we had before. So I think actually I will stop there, just saying that I'm ready to take some questions. And yeah.
Did you discuss last communication from Washington to Moscow that sorry, I didn't see.
No.
Should I repeat? No. That Crimea must be given back. Did you discuss this issue, and what did you actually hear the new mood or some changes in the communication from Moscow, and what else did you discuss? Thank you.
My meeting with Minister Lavrov is part of our political dialogue with Russia, and we have met several times, including here at the Munich Security Conference last year. We addressed a wide range of different issues. We, of course, discussed Ukraine, and there are well-known disagreements between NATO and Russia. I underlined the importance of full implementation of the Minsk agreements, that the NATO supports the sovereignty and the territorial integrity of Ukraine. And I also underlined the importance of that the OSCE monitors have full access to be able to monitor the situation in eastern Ukraine. Then we addressed transparency, risk reduction, predictability related to military activities, with more military presence in Europe, close to our borders. There is an increased need for predictability, transparency related to exercises and military activity. We have seen also I think it was yesterday, the busing of an American ship in the Black Sea. Unsafe and unprofessional behavior of Russian planes, and we need to avoid these kind of incidents, and if they happen, make sure that they don't spiral out of control. We are also working on air safety in the Baltic Sea. We welcome the meeting which will take place soon in Helsinki with experts addressing how we can improve air safety in the Baltic Sea, And we also addressed Afghanistan, Libya, and Syria. And when it comes to Afghanistan, I would just like to underline that NATO will continue to support the unity government and to help to train the Afghan forces.
Reuters.
Robin Emmett, Reuters. Did you notice any change in tone with Minister Lavrov? It seems as if we could be having this same press conference a year ago with the same kind of language, the same kind of message, the same kind of problems.
So if the tone was...
There's a change in the tone.
I will say that there were well-known positions from both NATO and from Russia, but I think it's useful to have dialogue also on issues where we have different views, like for instance Ukraine, to update and to exchange views. Then on transparency, risk reduction, we have actually been able to make some progress. After our meeting here last year, when Minister Lavrov and I met a year ago, that was actually the meeting that enabled the convening of 3 meetings of the NATO-Russia Council. Until then, we haven't had any meeting for almost 2 years. So I think that the meetings with Minister Lavrov, and especially the meeting I had here in this place exactly a year ago, has proven to be productive in the way that they have enabled us to move forward on the dialogue NATO-Russia. And based on the agreements we reached last year, we have been able to have 3 meetings and also to make some progress on briefings on exercises. In December we briefed on NATO exercises, Russia briefed on Russian exercises, and also we had a briefing on air safety in the Baltic Sea region in December last year. And now we have the process which is led by Finland with experts on air safety. And these are concrete outcomes of the work that we started at the meeting here a year ago, and then we are following up in the NATO-Russia Council, and hopefully we can make new steps following our meeting this time.
Washington Post.
Michael Birnbaum, Washington Post. Yesterday, Defense Secretary Mattis said that the United States isn't ready for military cooperation with Russia, but that political discussion was a different area, and that political leaders could try to have some sort of dialogue. After your meeting today, was there anything different, would you say, about Lavrov's approach, discussion about the United States, anything new that U.S. leadership could seize on to pursue, or NATO leadership could seize on to pursue further dialogue?
So our focus was, of course, NATO-Russia dialogue. So we didn't go into the details about the bilateral relationship U.S.-NATO, but of course, U.S. being the biggest NATO ally, of course, NATO-Russia relationships also has an impact on U.S.-Russia relationships. And as you know, what NATO has decided, and that includes the United States, is to suspend all practical cooperation with Russia as a reaction to the illegal annexation of Crimea in 2014. That decision still stands, but we have underlined that the suspension of practical cooperation does not mean that we suspend political dialogue. We were not successful. We didn't manage to convene any meetings of the NATO-Russia Council from the summer 2014 until the summer of 2016, or the spring. But now we have been able to convene 3 meetings after Lavrov and I met here last year. So we are strengthening our political dialogue with Russia on a wide range of issues: Ukraine, military transparency, Afghanistan, and today we also discussed Libya and Syria. And we are also looking into how we can strengthen our military lines of communications. So there is a room for dialogue and for engagement with Russia, even though we continue to suspend our practical cooperation.
Wall Street Journal.
Does the relationship between Russia and the West, NATO, and the United States appear volatile to you right now?
Volatile?
Volatile. Yeah. And is this sort of unpredictability of where Russia stands, where the United States stands, where NATO might stand, is that undermining security, or need it not unnecessarily undermine security?
Before the annexation of Crimea, the relationship between the West and Russia, NATO and Russia, was better. We were actually developing a partnership, a strategic partnership with Russia. We were, for instance, planning to destroy chemical weapons from Syria together. We worked together in many different areas, and we had a lot of practical cooperation. After the illegal annexation of Crimea, the relationship between the West and Russia, NATO and Russia, has deteriorated. And it hasn't recovered since then. What we see is a more unpredictable, more dangerous world, and we see higher tensions. And of course that is something which is of concern for all allies. But that's exactly the reason why we continue to work for political dialogue to de-escalate, to reduce tensions, and to at least manage our relationship with Russia. So yes, there is more unpredictability. Yes, it's more uncertainty. But that's exactly the reason why we are trying to improve our relationship with Russia, and the reason why NATO is responding with strengthening our collective defense to make sure that NATO is ready and prepared to also respond to a more demanding security environment.
EAD.
Just one question to something James Mattis said today, the reaching of the 2% goal finance of NATO. He would like to reach this goal in 1 year or within this year. Do you think that's realistic? Germany says it will take much more time.
So I didn't really get that. He said that all NATO allies should reach it within 1 year. At least what NATO has agreed is to stop the cuts, to gradually increase defense spending, and then to move towards the 2% within a decade. And different NATO allies will reach that goal in different years. But I expect all allies to reach the goal within the decade. Some allies have already reached 2%. We have 5 allies: the United States, United Kingdom, Poland, Estonia, Greece, that have reached the 2% target. Then Romania declared yesterday that they will meet the 2% target this year. And then we have countries like Lithuania and Latvia that will reach it most probably next year. So different allies will not reach the target in the same year, but I expect all allies to move and to start to increase and at least stop the cuts. And for instance, Germany has declared, has first of all increased defense spending. This year, defense spending in Germany is increasing by 8%. But second, they have declared a willingness. I saw the Chancellor today declaring very clearly that Germany will honor its commitments, will live up to the decision we made in 2014. And on top of that, we have the figures we presented just a couple of days ago, showing that we have 3.8% real increase across Europe and Canada, which is a significant increase for 1 year. But we need, of course, more than 1 year, but we are moving in the right direction.
Bild.
There have been talks between Mr. Flynn and the Russian side. Did these talks overshadow your talks to Mr. Lavrov today? Did you talk about that, this context?
No, not at all. And it's not an issue for NATO, who is having different positions in different NATO allied countries. We relate to those who are in charge, those who are responsible. And I really appreciate the meeting with Secretary Mattis in Brussels on Wednesday and Thursday this week, 2 days with Defense Ministerial meeting. I really think that was an excellent meeting where Secretary Mattis expressed strong support to NATO. He was very much welcomed. He is a very respected leader, and we had an excellent meeting with him. Then I will meet with Vice President Pence in Brussels in NATO on Monday, and we are engaging with the new administration. I've also spoken twice with President Trump, and they all convey the same message, that the United States remains committed to NATO, to the North Atlantic Alliance, because it is in the interest of the United States to have a strong transatlantic partnership.
Al Arabian.
Good afternoon, Secretary General. Nuruddin Fridi from Al Arabian News Channel. In your discussion with Mr. Lavrov, is there any room for cooperation between NATO and Russia in fighting Daesh in Iraq and Syria? As well, any kind of cooperation between Russia and NATO in Libya, because as you know, there is enough relation, let's say, or communication between Mr. Haftar and the Russian, without communication between Mr. Sarraj and the Russian. So it's a bit complicated to understand. Is it possible for you, both sides, to work together to help the Libyan? And can I ask you specifically on Iraq, Mr. Secretary General? There is one AWACS flying since last October or November, 25 flights. There is a team trainer inside Iraq, but some are saying that this is a limited role for NATO, while yesterday you spoke as an alliance against Daesh, not NATO, but the alliance against Daesh are talking about possible acceleration of this war against the terrorist organization.
As I said, we have suspended the practical cooperation with Russia, but we support, and NATO plays a role in the international efforts to fight terrorism. Our biggest military operation, Afghanistan, is about fighting terrorism. It's about preventing Afghanistan becoming a safe haven for international terrorists. And we provide, and all NATO allies participate in the US-led coalition fighting Daesh, ISIL. And we have Turkey being a NATO ally, being on the ground in northern Syria fighting Daesh. Of course, NATO also provides some direct support to the coalition with the AWACS and the training of Iraqi officers. The training of Iraqi officers, we train Iraqi officers in Jordan, but we have also started now from January to train Iraqi officers in Iraq. That's a modest scale, but it's a scalable activity, so we will now assess whether we will scale it up the training inside Iraq. But I also met today with Senator McCain and Secretary Kelly here at the Munich conference. And one of the issues I discussed both with Senator McCain and with Kelly is, of course, how NATO can do more in supporting the efforts to fight Daesh. That's on the agenda, part of our dialogue and part of what we discussed both with Mattis, Secretary Mattis, but also Secretary Kelly and McCain.
Thank you very much. That's all we have time at this time. Thank you very much for making it into this rather amazing stage.